Welcome to the Inside Silverstone podcast, a business podcast covering all things tech, engineering, innovation and motorsport. Hosted by me, Chris Broome.
And me, Fiona Paulley. This is a series of unscripted conversations with leading business owners and high-tech talent, talking about their experiences within the Silverstone and motorsport business communities.
Welcome to the next edition of Inside Silverstone. My name is Chris Broome and I am your wonderful host. Today I am delighted to welcome to the show my good neighbour here in Silverstone Park, Bill Taylor, who is the Sales and Marketing Director of a company called Biketrac. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Well, I'm hoping there's not going to be any feedback. I don't think there is, because for those that are watching this and listening, Bill is literally the other side of my wall just here. So we are neighbours in the Innovation Centre here at Silverstone Park. And obviously with Bill's camera, you can see obviously into our car park. We're recording this at, what time is it now? 20 to 6. So most people have buggered off and gone home. And we are here doing a podcast. So, Bill, look, lots to talk about. Want to talk about you, Biketrac, and a few other bits and bobs. Before we get into that, what I always do, and as you identified when we spoke earlier, I go on LinkedIn and I have a quick look at everyone's bio, just to understand a bit more about their journey to where they've got to today, see if there's any common themes, and there's some fun things to talk about. And basically, your background, certainly in more sort of recent years, has all been about technology and sort of tracking technology. So Biketrac, which we'll come on to in a moment, you're Sales and Marketing Director, but before Biketrac, you worked for a company called AutoTrack, AVT Track, and a very well-known company, certainly I remember this company from years ago, Road Angel, all which is technology-based, which is great. Yeah. But what I didn't realise, and you revealed to me moments ago before we went live, was that you were also previously did door work, which is the way you described it. And for those that haven't met Bill yet, as I'm sure you will, you know, he's a sizable guy. You would not trifle with him. But your response to that was that I'm just a cuddler.
Absolutely, yeah.
A friendly, lovable cuddler, which I think it has to be in some way the one of the introductions to this show and potentially the title. But anyway, Bill, look, why for you personally, why tech? Why technology?
Absolutely no clue. It was a complete accident. So I was a road angel from when it started. I was on the road. It was a great time. They got involved in telematics while we were there, which I saw a little unit on the table and thought, well, that'd be good for motorbikes. And then circumstances changed and Biketrac was launched in 2009, and it was by accident. It was it certainly wasn't intentional.
And you're co-owner in Biketrac?
I am, yeah, it's 4 of us.
And to tell everyone about Biketrac, so for those that haven't heard of it before, you know, what is it that you do?
So Biketrac, we specialise in motorcycle security. There's hundreds of tracking products on the market already. For cars, most cars come with them automatically now. So we found a bit of a niche in motorbikes. At the time, alarms were a big form of a deterrent from a theft. But tracking, for the last 14 years, we've sort of shown a way that it makes a difference having tracking. When we launched, the average recovery rate for bikes was about 40% in the industry. Right. And now having a tracking product fitted is over 90%. So wow. Cruise, it makes a big, big difference. But just picking a niche and getting it right, that was one thing we wanted to do and wanted to specialise at and just be known for. Instead of, I call it the scattergun approach, where you put something on everything, which we could easily do. We could forge our own journey that way. But just by focusing on motorbikes, getting it right, being known for it, it's done well for us.
Very good. And so what's positively spun from that, from a niche perspective? So obviously you've got motorbikes, which we'll come back to, but sort of ATV, sorry, yeah, ATV, which from sort of quad bikes, which then sort of neatly leads into forestry industry and trailers, for example, and then into farming. Because of things like tractors and other products like that.
Basically, yeah. So because of most of the manufacturers we work with in the bike side, likes of Kawasaki, Honda, Yamaha, they all do quads. So it was a natural progression. Rubu works for me. He looks after that market, knows the industry well, and I haven't got a clue. So it was just nice to say, look, you know the market. Here's a product. We support you. What would you like us to do for you? And that's grown tremendously. In 6 years, we've gone from 11 dealers to, I think it's nearly 300 now. Endorsed by, we're fitted on Polaris's, CF Moto, endorsed by all the brands. Natural progression of that agriculture market, because it's so broad, is like you touched on the arborist sector. So we're working with Timberwolf, Green Mech is another one. Again, this is an industry I'm learning as I go. But again, there's no one doing what we're offering, which is quite nice. So be able to take our expertise into that market is going well.
And what are the products? And what are the things you guys actually sort of produce and sell?
It's a little black box the size of a packet of cigarettes, roughly, which is manufactured in the UK. So obviously we're based here at Silverstone. Our factory will manufacture them in High Wycombe. They're boxed in Basingstoke and then get distributed all over the UK and Ireland as well. That's as far as abroad we go is Ireland. But we sell through dealers because we're a Thatcher accredited product. I'm lucky to put a top box on a motorbike. Don't do anything technical. So we sell through the dealer network. They supply and fit for us. The two big brands on site, Ducati, they endorsed us 6 months after we launched. I was very fortunate with that. We worked closely with them. And other guys at KTM as well. And obviously with their niche of being niche, what I mean by that is being off-road bikes. They do a lot of road bikes, which we do a lot with. But the off-road market is something I'm trying to tap into. That's completely separate on its own.
Very good. And so you've mentioned Thatcher, and so presumably that ties in with insurance policies. So if I've got a motorbike ATV, or I'm a farmer looking to potentially insure my vehicles and assets through the insurance company, if I have one of your products, that will then presumably reduce my premiums.
That's the plan. Yes. I say that because insurance is a minefield on its own. But generally with the NFU, for example, in the farming side, we get on average between 12 and up to 12.5% discount. For motorbikes, work with all the brokers, and we get between 5 and 15% as well. We have an AutoTrack product. So again, on site, we work with Lunaz. So they fit us to their vehicles, which is, again, being electric vehicle, we don't have any problems with those either. So different combustion engine where you've got a permanent power feed, for example.
So Lunaz, for those that aren't aware, so Lunaz is the basically the company that David Beckham invested in quite famously, certainly within our region. So this is an organisation that takes either classic cars, or they've now sort of pivoted into council dumpster trucks, as I would call it. The binland vehicles. But they basically pivoted mainly into classic cars, restoring them and electrifying them. And so, they're using your tracking device on those vehicles, those high value, very expensive vehicles.
Yeah.
And presumably, if someone's got a sort of normal, normal, but a not very nice car, premium car, which has tracking already on it, presumably they could buy one of your units as a secondary device. Because one would presume car thieves are becoming a bit more sophisticated now, so they probably know where factory-fitted tracking devices are in BMWs and Porsches and all these other types. And so presumably having one of your cigarette packet size secondary tracking devices probably wouldn't decrease insurance premiums. It would be as a backup and increase the chances of that car being found and recovered.
I think when you get to prestige cars and motorbikes, they're kind of similar. So people want a motorbike. It's not a necessity, it's a toy, it's something they want to have. And because you can bespoke them, it's the same as when you get to the top end cars as well. People have worked hard to get them, they want them. So it's not just another tool. So by adding that extra level of security, you've got a much higher chance of getting the vehicle back. And yeah, you're right. In the car, motorbike thieves are more opportunists. They'll see the bike will get broken for parts and get sold off certain websites, etc. Where cars, this is a slightly different animal, but you have a much better chance if there is a secondary device, they're not going to find it. So you've got a much chance of getting your vehicle back.
Very good. Well, and for everyone listening to this, we're going to be leaving links in the show notes, so you'll be able to find Biketrac's website, their products, and other items. So if this is of an interest, clearly go check it out. You guys were on TV recently, BBC. You specifically were on the British Broadcasting Channel. So tell us about that. What's it like being famous?
Well, yes. Unfortunately, I don't blend in that easily. I need to stand out a bit more on my own, but my size doesn't help. Well, I've been on it twice, on a couple of different ones. So we had a stolen bike in London. It was stolen off a forecourt, ended up in Lithuania.
Wow.
And because it was a bit of a story, we got it back. And these companies did a bit of research, liked the story, and we talked about it a couple of different times. So, yeah, it was nice for the exposure. Charlie Borman, who did the long way round many years ago, when he was working with BMW, his bike was stolen, and we covered that one in Watford from Chelsea. So we've had a couple of high profile recoveries, which have been quite nice.
Wow! And the recent BBC program was presumably did you go to London and did you meet the owner of it? What was the interview? What was the story there?
I've just remembered there was two different scenarios. Sorry. So the recent one was a bike we recovered on the back of a van. So going back to our device, we do use different technology in the unit. So most tracking products are GPS only. So they'll give you accuracy down about 3 to 5 meters, nice and simple. Motorbikes, being a smaller commodity, can be hidden. Back of a van, we recovered a bike in a second floor flat, for example. But the one on the last show that you saw was a bike in London. It was in the back of 3 vans. It was a little footage. Ironically, I was being asked to do a little YouTube clip for one of my dealers, and he gave me a GoPro, and he said, "Look, if you can do a recovery, can you record it?" I think I took 28 photos of my nose before I actually worked out how to turn it on and use it, which I think I deleted apparently. I don't know why. But it was just showing how the RF element worked, so we can pinpoint the asset down to a meter.
Wow.
So that was why it was a little bit different and why it was on there as well.
Very good.
So,
very good.
Yeah.
And you have recently launched a magazine. Tell us about the magazine.
So Moto Guardian. One thing we've experienced, competition I think is really healthy. The fact that more of you actually do it. And when we launched back in 2009, Tracker was in the, big player, still are, but they were a bit more generic. And because we were focusing on bikes, there was no one else doing it. And since then, which is great, other people have come to the table. So now the idea of tracking's really, really grown. But also manufacturers come out with products like iPhone, for example, with the iTag. So a lot of people think, great, I can stick that under my seat. Great. Oh, yes. But then if you've got an iPhone, I can track that. So it kind of defeats the object. So the whole idea of Motor Guardian and what I want to do as a brand is help educate. Just to give people a better understanding, if our product isn't for them, that's not a problem. But why should you look at a product, for example, with a subscription? What's the benefit of that? It means it's monitored. It means it's probably Thatcham accredited. So if your vehicle's stolen, you've got a much higher chance of getting it back. Because we get involved as opposed to you going out to find thieves near your vehicle. If you go back 20, 30 years and you have an altercation with someone, it's probably fisticuffs falling on the floor. That's it. Nowadays, the whole dynamics changed. Knives, we hear an awful lot more on the TV, on the radio. We had a dealer attacked with acid and a squeezy water bottle. He was sat at traffic lights, squirted with acid. Luckily, didn't get the skin. So the whole dynamic of stealing bikes certainly has changed. So that's the idea for the Motor Guardian, just to help educate. So we did it. The first issue was also explaining about Thatcham. So, for example, if I asked you, there's 7 accreditations for Thatcham. Do you think is one better than another? For example, if you've got a Cat 1 and I had a Cat 4, would Cat 4 be better than 1 or 1 better than 4? What do you think? I'm going to put you on the spot here.
No idea. I could not tell you what that is. So, you're talking a foreign language to me now. So explain that.
Okay. Well, Thatcham is run by the insurance company. It's a testing house. So most alarms, trackers, immobilizers, any form of security that's recognised by an insurance company is tested by Thatcham. So a lot of people's perception is that the number is relevant to how good that product is. So the example I just shared with you, a Cat 1 is an alarm. and the Cat 4 is a locking wheel nut. Whereas a lot of people think that the higher the number or the lower number, the better the product. So tracking, there's only two. There's S7 and S5. That's it. The only difference between the two, one has a key fob, the other one doesn't. And it's little things like that we just want to educate people on, because these are minefield. When you are trying to buy some security, you're looking for a lock and chain, whatever it may be, is what's most appropriate for you. So a lot of tracking products are advertised and people show them what they look like. Great, so I'm a thief, I know what I'm looking for. It's just little things like that people don't tend to think of. I'll still install. No problem at all, but the chance are you stick it under the seat and you stick it straight to the battery. And the first thing that gets ripped off is the seat. The second thing is normally the battery. So it's just trying to help educate people on what to look for and be mindful when they're purchasing something.
And these are available through your website, aren't they? So there's links in your sort of news section with the publication. And so what we'll also do in our show notes is leave a direct link for the latest edition of that magazine, and those that are interested will be able to download and read it. Tell us about Securitas and partnership that you've got there, and who is Securitas for those that aren't aware, and why is it important for the product that you've got?
So Securitas are one of the largest security companies in the world. Every tracking company relies on the police, but I kind of recognised several years ago it's not always their responsibility. With more and more tracking products becoming available, I think part of the EU, all cars now come with a tracker on them, whether they're active or not, so it doesn't matter, but more and more vehicles have tracking. And with their cutbacks, it's not necessarily the responsibility to chase stolen assets around. So on occasion, we have a brilliant relationship with the police, and I will always defend them, because when we do a lot of shows, customers say, the police don't do anything. They're lazy. I reported my bike stolen, they didn't come round. Could you give them any idea where it went? And they haven't got the resources they once had. So with a tracking product, we can give them accurate location. However, they occasionally can't go. If something more sinister has happened, bike theft is important to the owner, certainly, but to them it's drops down the pecking order a little bit, depending on what else has happened. We have someone who's SI accredited, like you alluded to. I'm a big cuddly guy. So people my size going around with a van looking for stolen vehicles isn't appropriate, really, to cover the whole of the UK. I don't want to discriminate customer who lives in London and who lives in Scotland, that if your bike's stolen, the police can't attend, so they can't help. So the idea of the partnership with Securitas, being an ex-doorman, I'm SI accredited. So I've gone through the tests, I'm CRB checked, the police know me, and all the staff at Securitas are the same. So it means if we need their assistance, they can go to a location. They can't go onto private property, but if the vehicle's found on public highway, we can recover that under common law. So they can secure the vehicle, get it recovered, and it just means, the police don't have to attend. So it's just another way of helping a customer.
Very good, very good. And so product-wise, you've said obviously what the products are. We'll leave some links in the show notes. But cost-wise, are these things expensive? Is it actually, reasonably cost-effective, for people listening?
I'd like to think reasonably cost-effective. Unfortunately, not a product that people necessarily want to buy. So, I'm hesitating. We've got Biketrac product retails at $299. And then the customer has one of 4 different options. They can pay monthly, which is £9.99. They can buy a year at $99, 2 years at $179, 3 years at $229. The ATV product's the same. It just has the first year included. And we have a sister product called Biketrac Lite, which is a stripped back tracker. Not everybody wants bells and whistles. Not everybody wants a smartphone. So the Biketrac Lite is like your old Lucky 3310. Does the basics really well, and that's $199.
So for basically 300 quid or for 200 quid, you're buying a product that's presumably going to last quite a long time. Because of the build quality in the UK, and then you've got a low cost monthly or annual or two yearly license, so they continue to be tracked. And if your asset is several £1,000s or significantly more than that, then that's got to be a good investment. But I also saw on your website, for those that might want it, you can also put that on finance.
0% finance, because again, not everybody's got £300-400 in the pocket to burn. Even if they've got prestige vehicles, it's sometimes it could be something of aspire to get. So it just breaks any boundary down. So £39 a month, that's a unit fitted. including the first year subscription with a £50 deposit. So just helps to break down every objection, really.
Good. And, as I mentioned at the beginning, and as we can see with your background, so you're in Silverstone Park, as am I. So, what's for those that aren't aware, what's Silverstone Park like to be a resident in?
Well, there's not a race on. Brilliant. So,
Yeah.
So the 2 big weekends a year that everyone thinks we should be here, it's lovely to work from home. But aside that, it's a fantastic place to be. It's easy to get to. I only live in Milton Keynes. But no, it's grown. I've been up here now since 2004. So actually based up here, the Road Angel was one of the first buildings to come on site. I don't know what they're in there now. It's still the old Dragon building, or what was the Dragon? I don't know if what's in there now, but 2 buildings that way.
Yeah.
That's where we started. So we didn't come over. So we did a management buy at Biketrac in 2016. So we only moved across 2 buildings, and it works really well.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, for those listening to this, Silverstone Park, you don't have to be, specifically a motorsport or engineering business to have an office here or to directly benefit commercially. Longhurst is a service company. We're a financial planning business, so we look after the business owners. Biketrac are obviously producing technology to track vehicles, but you could be any type of business and be located here. Bill and I are based in the Innovation Centre. So this is maybe 20, 25 offices, something like that, over 3 floors. Pizzas, Macmillan days, sports days, quizzes. A gym and a crash are being opened up in the next 12 months, which will be fantastic. I'm sure Bill and I will be in there pumping some weights, and you'll be showing us how to do it. But yeah, no, it's a fantastic location, and as you've said, so you guys already have relationships on site. So Lunez, you've got a strategic relationship with, and obviously a number of others. Obviously we've spoken about motorbikes, but in relation to cars, one of the questions we're asking everybody that we're interviewing at the moment, Fiona and I, is what was your first car or indeed motorbike?
So first motorbike was a Kawasaki Zephyr 550.
Okay.
First car, oh my goodness, little Honda Civic.
You fitted in that?
Just. It was. Do you remember the Police Academy with the front seat out? Works a treat. Yeah, does really well.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, head through the
sunroof. That's it. Yeah, that's why I'm bald. I had a full head of hair before I start one of those. But
very good. And what about dream car or indeed dream bike? What's the optimal thing that if you could wave a magic wand, you would have on your driveway?
I think a dream car would be a Bentley Continental. Very
nice. I swear I see one occasionally around here. I think one of the other owners is doing very well. So Civic was the first, and the Bentley Continental. Yeah, very nice. The Bentley seats are lovely, aren't they?
Yeah, they're nice and spacious.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. How tall are you?
6'4".
6'4". Yeah. Very good. Last question, because we've been on for 20 plus minutes here. So thanks for coming on, Bill. Fantastic interview. 2 last questions. So the first question is, you're a maturer, wiser man today, but if you were to go back to, a 20-year-old version of yourself with more hair, working on the doors, what one piece of advice would you give yourself?
Titles don't mean a great deal. I think.
What do you mean by that?
I left school with no qualifications apart from cycling proficiency. And if you were going to tell me, I hope that's still valid, I'm not entirely sure. But if someone told me 30 years down the road I'll be a sales and marketing director of a successful tracking company, wouldn't have believed it. And it's every day still a learning curve. Marketing, I kind of fell into this because we bought the business. That wasn't why I bought the business. I didn't want to have the title. It was, okay, this is your project. This is exciting. So titles, it's a learning curve, and the team around me I'm very blessed with, because otherwise without them I'll kind of be scuppered. But I think it's not, titles aren't. I left school, van driver, worked at a health club. My title was a sales manager. It was only me. I didn't manage anybody. And very quickly I kind of learned, okay, again, titles for me personally, they don't identify people, that the people identify themselves, if that makes any sense.
No, I entirely agree with you. I think certainly with certainly in my profession, there's lots of individuals that have done 20 or 30 exam qualifications. They'll have a significant number of initials after their name, but it doesn't mean that they're a fit and proper, wealth manager or financial planner. And it's the same with any type of sector or industry. Just because someone sat a lot of exams or they've got this name behind them doesn't actually mean, like you said, that they're a good human to deal with, and they haven't sort of stood on people along the way to get where they are. And, from your perspective and similar to mine, it's just been down to hard work, grafting, and then things have slowly started slotting into place, like a jigsaw puzzle. So, yeah, I think that was really, really sage advice and good example.
And don't
we're going to close
so seriously.
Don't take anything so seriously, or take anything personally. Which is
personally, yeah.
I would tell my younger self, don't let your ego get in the way of what could be a really healthy, positive relationship or something else, business or otherwise. So, yeah, sage advice. Is there anything before we close up, Bill? Anything that I haven't asked you? Anything that you want to cover off whilst we've got you and Biketrac on the show?
Been very grateful to have me on. Thank you very much.
No, absolute pleasure. So for those listening to this, check out the show notes for all of Bill's company details, the link to the magazine which they've launched, which is a fantastic free educational piece for you to check out, as well as information on their products and services. Remember, if you're listening to this, to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, as we'll be asking Bill to do. We really need that because it helps other people find the show and listen to it and get introduced to the fantastic businesses that are part of Silverstone Park and our wider sort of Northamptonshire community. Bill, thanks for coming on the show, chap. I will see you literally in 2 minutes as we walk out the door to go home.
Safe travels.
See you later, mate.
Take it, all the best. Cheers.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and please give us a 5-star review.
The Inside Silverstone podcast is produced by the team at Longhurst. To listen to more episodes, please visit insidesilverstone.co.uk. Please note neither Fiona or Chris work for Silverstone Park, Silverstone Technology Cluster or Silverstone Circuit.